what I'm about to do is giving you some head ups and understanding of the right side of the window. So you saw that there is a design view. That's our canvas. I can draw whatever I want. And then, like I said, Dreamweaver will translate it into the code. So what I want to say in this PowerPoint slide is HTML is a text document, right? There are three different, right? There is a plain text, purely text message. There is no such like a styling going on. Even in plain text message or plain text document, you're not going to be able to underline or make a bold. So that's a very basic level of a text message, text file. And the second is a rich text, which is something like our Microsoft Word. Once you put them, by the way, can you guys see my PowerPoint slide? Okay. In this file format, you will be able to like style, like underlines and italics, stuff like that. Okay. But do you remember that? How do you work with the Microsoft Word? Most of the time, you guys are type in everything what you need to, and then you come back and then you highlight a portion of your paragraph, for example, and then you can make a bold and underlines and italics, stuff like that, right? However you do though, in rich text file, your text information and your style is one thing. In other words, Microsoft Word document has both sides of it. Now, HTML is like sort of a different animal because it does exactly the same thing with the Microsoft Word does, which means you can make a style, you can underline, you can make a bold. However, they sort of separate content with a style. Okay. And in about 5 or 6 weeks, we are going to jump into such a thing called CSS, which is a core part of this HTML development experience. And CSS is the one that taking care of your style. So let's move on. What is HTML as a text document structure does? Okay. This is the structure. So in about 20 minutes, next 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to explain whole the structure for you. And most of the time, you don't have to memorize it, but Dreamweaver takes care of it, but at least you have to understand what it is. So let's start one at a time. The first line is this. So this bracket with the exclamation mark and say doc type space HTML. This is what we call it as a declaration. And this is a sort of the line that a browser can read this document as HTML document. In other words, without this declaration, web browser will not be able to understand what you did as HTML. So it's a must. And then your question is like, why exclamation mark? Why this doc type has to be capital letter? Why there has to be a space? And then why you using just like in the brackets? I don't know. There are some reasons, but again, it's absurd question. Try to understand why. One nice thing about this is we are in the HTML5 version, so it's much shorter. But I started teaching HTML before we have HTML5, and one version before HTML4, the first line was this long. We have to have all this line as a first line. So compared to this is nothing. I want you to recognize this, like this is a declaration and we have to have it. Now, second line is HTML and closing HTML. So we call it as anything with a bracket, and any code should be exist as a pair. So we call it as this is like opening tag. This is a closing tag. So in HTML, pretty much all tags exist as a pair. One is opening, one is closing. When you open HTML, pretty much everything has to be inside of HTML. Now you may wonder where is that HTML comes from, right? Inside, there are two sections. One section is a head and closing head again. So this is a head section. So what we put and what Dreamweaver will put in between this head opening and closing head section is that something related to the metadata, which means this is nothing to do with a visual element of this HTML document at all. In other words, whatever you put in this section, it's not gonna visualize. There are so many others like the styles, the metadata, links, and script, but these are all not directly related to your HTML, like visual part of HTML. And then all this element will be covered as we go further. So just remember that there's a head section. All right, there's a body sections. So body section is the one that represent our canvas. In between opening and closing, in between these two space, you can put entire web page in it. You can put like 10 videos and 10 audios. Literally, the space in between opening and closing body tag represents the entire design canvas in Dreamweaver. So it's a body, it's our canvas. This is our domain for our creativity. Okay. Remember, all visual element, which mean table, video, audio, pictures, link, should go in there. Now, let's look at the style now. This is structure, okay? What you see in the left column over here is the blank HTML. Even you don't put anything, if you just create a blank HTML, they will have this structure already created for you as a blank HTML. You have this declaration. So declaration does its job as declaring it as HTML. Now, look at this HTML and closing HTML tag here, which is represented by this red box, right? So opening here, closing here. Nothing should be outside of this HTML set, okay? And then inside there is two sections, head and body, okay? And this body section over here is our canvas. This is for our visual elements. Now, I'm about to say one really critical like mistake people make. And then you will do, a lot of you will, the first time you will make one or two mistakes on this. In between line 1 and 2, in between the declaration and the opening HTML tag, in between these two, there should be nothing in it. You're not supposed to put anything in between declaration and opening HTML, okay? And the same token, in between opening HTML and the opening head, here, you're not supposed to put anything in it. Okay, the only place you can put it, again, is in between head, in between body, that's it. If you try to put something in between closing body and closing head and opening body, that is gonna create an error message for browser. If you try to put something in between closing body and closing HTML, it will create an error message. So that's what I'm trying to say. In HTML, the only place you can put something in it is in between head, in between body. That's it. Nowhere else. So here's what we tackle. Like I said, your job is putting something in between head and head, body and body, nowhere else. If you do that, it'll create an error message. So I'm pretty much done with this. right? So how to tackle with the tag, like in between body and body. Okay.